Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Basic to Advanced T-shirt Design. And in this episode, I am going to teach you about Photoshop. So, in general, we work in Illustrator because for our client work, Illustrator is the print standard. That means for printing, you need to make your designs in Illustrator or vector format. That's why we work in Illustrator. But Photoshop is also really important for t-shirt design, and there are kind of designs that you can only do with Photoshop. So here is some example I'm going to show you. So you may have seen this kind of designs, and these are the designs you can make with Photoshop and not in Illustrator, because these are photorealistic designs. They are using photos. So for making designs like this, you have to use Photoshop. So we will make this kind of designs in our next video, but in this one I'm going to just talk about the basic Photoshop settings. So for starting a t-shirt design in Photoshop, you can choose any size, but for March by Amazon standard, we work with this size. So that is called our regular size, which is 4500 into 5400. Our unit is in pixel right now, and resolution, this part must be 300, and that is the print standard. So you must take your resolution, that is the DPI or PPI, that means pixel per inch. So it needs to be 300. And if you are going to make designs for print on demands, then color profile should be RGB, and if you are going to print this manually, then you can choose CMYK, but in our case we are going to go with RGB color mode. And then this is the background content. You can make your background anything you want. You can make it white, black, or background any color you can choose. You can click here, you can choose any color, that will be the artboard color. So let's, for now I am going to take kind of this gray color, then click OK. That is done. Now just click on create. So it is going to give us a artboard like this. So you can see this is the, sorry, not that one. So this is the artboard. Now in Illustrator we work like, let me show you Illustrator here. So that is the text I will be making for our next video. So in Illustrator, this is Illustrator, you can see we can work inside this artboard area, or we can work outside that artboard area. We cannot go outside of this workspace, which is this one. It is going right now, but in some cases it will not. You cannot go outside of this box area, but you can see you can work outside of this artboard. So this is the artboard, you can work outside of that, but in Photoshop we cannot go outside that circle. So if I, for example, if I take a rectangle from here, you can see I cannot go outside of that area. That means I can go, but it is not, like, it is not being visible. So if you go outside of your artboard, that will be invisible, but that object is not deleted, that is there. So if I select this layer and press Ctrl T, it is going to give me this transform tool, and with that I can bring this back. So in Illustrator we work in artboard, that means we work inside this document. We can take layer or not, but everything we do here, that makes a new layer. So you can see, let me show you. So if I just draw a stroke here, that is going to create a new layer. That means this is the path, so it is going to create a new layer for itself. If I just do anything here, that will create a new layer, you can see here. So this is how Illustrator works. It is not creating a exactly new layer, but it is creating a new path. That means we can select each and everything individually. That will give us option to select it from here. That means it makes a new layer for everything. But in Photoshop it works with layer also, but the difference is whatever you will do, that will happen in one single layer. So let me show you. If I select a new layer here, and now if I take my brush tool, and if I choose any color which will be visible on black, so if I draw it like this, it is going to draw on this layer. If I draw another one, everything is drawing in this layer, and here we cannot select on single object just like we did in this one. So in Illustrator we can select everything, each and every single object, but in Photoshop we cannot do that. So that is the main difference between Photoshop and Illustrator. So in Photoshop if you want to do things differently, you have to take a new layer every time. So let's say this is one object or one element of my design, I want a new one, then I can take a new layer, and in this new layer I can now do other things. So I can now overlap it like this, no, that is not a problem, and I can now select it, or I can now move it. So it is in this top layer, that's why I can move it, and if I select this layer I will be able to move that one. So this is the update version of Photoshop, not the very latest, this is the 2019 version, and so that's why I can select everything like this. In older version you will not be able to select object like this, you have to every time click on layers. Like you can see I am on this top layer, but still I can select or move this one, it is going to automatically change this layer here. So for Photoshop and Illustrator, this is the main difference. So if we want to work with Photoshop, we have to make everything in a new layer, and then we can bring in our whatever we need. Like if I go to file, then if I go to place linked, it is going to give me this option. I can choose from whatever I want to bring in here. So in this case I am going to bring in this image here, so I can bring that in. It is showing a little pixelate like this, but if I press enter, it is going to show the original version of it. Now it is a photo, it is a raster file, so it is going to show pixelate, but this is how we can work. So as you can see, now we have a image here on our this layer. We can select it, we can move it, we can simply erase this one. So erasing is a important thing in Photoshop. You cannot erase files in Illustrator, like you cannot erase images in Illustrator. You can of course erase these files, like this is a object, this is a path created in Illustrator, you can just expand it, then you can use your eraser tool to erase it like this. So this is how you can erase. But if you bring an image here, so let me show you, just this is an image, so I cannot just erase it. If I try to erase this image, it is not going to work. So Photoshop cannot, Illustrator cannot erase images, but Photoshop can. So if I select my eraser tool, it is showing me this cross icon here, that means it is not going to work. That is because we bring this image as place linked. So for fixing that, we have to right click on this layer and then click on rasterize layer. That will unlink this image. That means this image is no longer linked with anything from my computer. This is just a simple image in Photoshop. Now if I select my eraser tool, I can erase part of it. Okay, sorry, not like that. This is my eraser tool, I can erase part of it. Let me bring the eraser a bit bigger, so you can see now I can erase this image. So this is the main benefit of Photoshop, that we can erase parts of our image. So that is the thing we will need, because we will need tons of images. We will need to bring images here to work with Photoshop. And then for the text tool, you can see there is also a text icon here, or if you press T on your keyboard, that will give us the text tool, the same as Illustrator. So if I click here, I can now write here, and once the text is written like this, if I move my cursor like this in this direction, it is showing me that move tool icon. You can see that is the icon here. So with that icon showing, I can move this text. If I need to change anything or do anything, I can double click to select this text part. I can change its color like this, and once it is done, everything you need to do, it is done. You can select, click on this tick mark, that will make the selection, that will make the file permanent here. Now if I again click with my text tool, it is going to give me this option. And if you want to break your text, like I want a second line here, now there is a trick. If you press the, if you are using a keyboard layout, which I am using in Windows keyboard, so if you press the far right side corner enter, it will make the text permanent. But if you press the center enter, that is in your keyboard, like the middle enter, it is going to break the text in two line. So that is how you can break your text. So this is the thing anyway, so you don't need that. You can simply click here, and that is going to give you this text. If you need two line, you can simply click, select that part, cut it. Now maybe just make it solid, then keep a copy here, then press alt to drag another copy. With this text tool, you can double click to select this one, or you can simply double click on this part. So you can see this is the demo copy. That means this is the original text, this is the copy one. So if I double click on this part, it is going to make the selection, then press Ctrl V. So Ctrl V will paste whatever text you have selected. And for changing the thing, changing fonts and other elements, you have to select here, double click to select everything. Then you can go to object, window, then character. I have this character panel here. Okay, let's click on this character. It is going to give us the same setting or same style setting as our Illustrator has. So everything is similar here. You can change the space between text here, you can make all caps from here, you can change the size here, you can change the font from here. So that is how Photoshop works. So let me show you. If you click here, it is going to open a window like this, or you can simply click on this part here, that is also going to give you that exact window. You can see whichever font you want, you can click on any font, it is going to apply that font effect here. You can change the color of the font, you can change it from here, or you can change it from here. That is also cool. Now if you want to make it all caps, you can do that from here. If you want to make any other effect to this text, you can do that from here, and this is how it is going to look. You can again undo that effect like that, that is fine. Now if you want to apply some effect which we have in Illustrator, like the effect wrap and these options here, you have that in Photoshop also. So for that you have to select your text first, then click on this option which is called create wrap text. So click on this button here, it is going to give us this window. Now you can select anything, and you can see in Photoshop there is little icon which will help us understand what the effect is going to be, but in Illustrator we don't have that icon. So this is a plus point for Photoshop. Now we can select arc. Arc is going to show what is going on here. You can make it smaller or bigger, whatever you want. You can just work like Illustrator. You can now change the effect here, arch. You can change it to any effect you want. So this is how you can just work with Photoshop text. So once you have this kind of text, we understand that part right now. Now in Illustrator we break fonts. So I am showing you with Photoshop and Illustrator together. So in Illustrator, this is the font. We can simply change the font. So let's say this is the font I want. Then once our font is done, once our font is ready, we right click and create outlines just to break the font. But for Photoshop, for breaking fonts, you have to select the font, and then this is the layer of this font. Right click on this layer and then click on this rasterize type. That will make it small shapes. That means this is no longer a font. You can no longer edit this font. So this becomes a simple shape, and you can see the layer is changing also. So that is the font outline, or making outline for fonts. Then here are some toolbars which is really handy, but in general we don't need all of them. Or you can watch some Photoshop tutorials if you want to learn advance of Photoshop. There is way more things to do with Photoshop than Illustrator, but Illustrator is pretty standard, you know. So I am going to show you some object which is very important for our t-shirt design and which is very similar to Illustrator. So let me show you. If I take an ellipse here, and if I need to make a, or I have this text here, I am going to place a ellipse like this. We can simply select them and align them. Then let's say I am going to select this font, and I want to create a offset path of this font. So what we do, go to object, path, and then offset path. So offset path gives us this option to create offset path like this. We can make it bigger, smaller, whatever we want. So let's say I want this style. So this is how it is going to be. We can cut it. Now we can select this shape, maybe open transparency, just like how you work with Illustrator, then press Ctrl F. So this is how it looks. But in Photoshop, if you want to do that same thing, so let me show you. I am going to take a ellipse here, just a smaller ellipse. Now for this ellipse, once you are taking the ellipse, it is going to give you this option, that is the fill and stroke, same as Illustrator. So as you can see, there is no stroke for this ellipse, but there is fill color, You can change the color, anything you want, it is going to change in that color. So I think that is good. Now once you have this option, if you click anywhere else, it is going to give us this option. Now we can put measurement here, but that is not important, so let's use our move tool right now. And once you click on this one, you can see that option is, that editable option is gone, but you can change it from this properties panel. So if you select this one, then change the color from here, it is going to change just like Illustrator. So we have an ellipse like this, and this is our text, but in Illustrator we can right click and send back or bring to front, but in Photoshop we have to do it by layer. So I want to keep the ellipse in the background and text in the foreground. So I'm selecting this ellipse layer and bring that back under the text layer. So you can see this is how it is going to look. So I need to make a selection of my this text, and for doing that I can simply press Ctrl and click on this thumbnail icon. It is going to make a selection, you can see here. So what if I want to make a bigger ellipse, bigger shape of this text, that's like a offset path. So you have to go to select, then modify, then expand. So in expand you can put any number, let's put 10 for now, and then click OK. It is going to make a 10 point bigger offset path or bigger selection than the original selection, just like a offset path. Now I want to hide this area, or I want to hide the part of the ellipse from this area, just like this one. So for doing that, when this is selected, I need to select my ellipse here and then click on this layer mask icon in this option here. And if you click on this layer mask icon, okay, so I made a mistake, sorry. So not like that. Once it is selected like this, you have to press Ctrl Shift I, or you can simply go to select and then inverse. So inverse will make the selection in opposite direction, and once you do that inverse, now you can select this ellipse and click here. It is going to give us that cutout effect or offset path effect. Now this is one of the important thing we need to do with Photoshop, and in Illustrator we do a lots of transparency, just like I did in this one, you can see. So the rule of transparency is, if I select any object, if I take any object, and then if I open transparency for it, inside the transparent box, if I draw anything in black, that area becomes invisible. So this is the rule of transparency. So if I paint anything in black, that will become invisible. If I paint anything in white where I make invisible, that area will become visible again. You can see if I draw anything with white here, nothing will happen because it is already visible, but I make this area invisible with black. So if I draw white on top of that, that area will become visible. So that is the rule of transparency, and we have the same rule for Photoshop, and which is called layer mask. So you can see this is how my object is looking right now, and if I want to do anything with transparency or like that, all I need to do is, so this is the ellipse area, ellipse for us, and I am going to delete this one, this layer mask, so that is fine. So this is okay, so this is being linked anyway, so let's use another shape for now. So let's use a rounded rectangle, and for this one let's keep it this blue color, that is fine. So you can see this is my rounded rectangle, and this is the layer which is already renamed that rounded rectangle. So in this layer, if I want to do anything with transparency, what we will do is select this layer and create a layer mask. So layer mask will give us that exact thing which we get in Illustrator. Like if I select this one, this is the transparent box. So the rule remains same. Inside this box, if I paint anything in black, so you can see my foreground color is now black. If I paint anything in black, that area will become invisible. So you can see you cannot no longer see those areas like this. And if I paint anything in white, like you can see this area is, I didn't erase it. So if I draw anything with white here, nothing is happening, but this area I make invisible. So if I draw white in those area, that will become visible. So on simple rule, black makes invisible, white makes visible. So that is the role of layer mask and transparency, and we will use a lot this layer mask, we will use a lot. So this is the basic of Photoshop for t-shirt design. There is thousands of more work you can do with Photoshop, but for t-shirt design mostly you will need these options, this layer mask and this text option, text to raster, and then this text effects. And there is one more thing which we will do is we will need to bring images here. So let's erase everything that we created. Now this is our image. First step is we will make it rasterize, and then once it is rasterized we have to go to image, then adjustment, and then desaturate. So desaturate will make it black and white. You can see there is no color remaining in this image, only black and white and gray. Gray is the mix of black and white. So black and white color is remaining and every other color is gone. So if I need to put any color on this image, we will do is we are going to select a solid color layer. You can choose any color you want. If you want that image to be kind of red and orangey look like this, you can take a solid color image like this, and here if you right click on this layer and then create clipping mask, it is going to create a clipping mask with the object below. That means whatever is under that layer, it is going to apply to that image. So okay, let me make it a little bit clear. So this is my image for now. Let's try to make a ellipse here. I want to cut this part, so let's Ctrl X to cut it. Now I will delete this image, then press Ctrl V. So this is the image I want. Now I want to apply a color to this image. You can simply press Ctrl and click on this thumbnail. That is going to make a selection. Then you can take a solid color layer, whatever color you will choose. It is going to be that style color, and then click OK. And you can see it is going to apply to only that selection. And then if you choose this blending options, some of them will give us this kind of look. So this is another thing we will need for making t-shirt designs or changing colors of an image. Like this one was in a color, now we can change that color, we can make it whatever color we want. So this is one thing we will need constantly for making t-shirt design. And then another thing is without doing those actions, you can simply, I'm just going back. Okay, so here is a trick. You cannot go back, you cannot do undo more than once in Photoshop, or you have to press Ctrl and Shift to make multiple undos. But you can go to this edit and then keyboard shortcuts, and from here you can go to edit, then you can change the shortcut. Here you can see undo and redo is Alt Ctrl Z, and then a step forward is Shift Ctrl Z, and a step backward, this is the one that is we call undo. So a step backward I make it Ctrl Z. That means now I can press Ctrl Z as many times as I want, and it is going to work as undo. So that is the important setting you can do for your design. So I am going to just bring in my original image. So you can see this is the original image with these colors in it, and for changing the color we can simply go to image, adjustment, and then hue saturation. And with this hue saturation sliders we can change the color of our overall image. You can see this is how we can change the colors. That is going to give us some random colors, like depending on the original image colors. You can do many other settings with this, but that's not something important for this tutorial. So you can change the colors like this, or you can simply just make it desaturate and take a new color layer. So these are the most important things you will need to know about Photoshop to make designs for Photoshop. And that's it for Photoshop tutorial. I hope this was helpful. In our next tutorial we will try to make a design, and that will help you guys understand it more. So that's it for this video. I hope it was helpful. See you in the next video guys. Have a great time.